I'm talking about Outlander's 14th episode, The Search. Hello everyone, and thanks for listening to the podcast. I'm your host, Betty. So I need to address a couple things on the top here. In my last podcast with Robin on Farmhouse Fixer, I may have made it sound like she's my co-host to all the shows, and I wish, but she's only going to be able to do Farmhouse Fixer because her day job doesn't allow her to do this with me all the time. So, yeah, she's going to be only doing Farmhouse Fixer with me. And another thing I want to bring up is that I listened to another podcast about true crime, and I had made a promise to them that I would mention them on my next episode, and that was supposed to be on Farmhouse Fixer, but I wasn't able to, I was trying to help Robin get past her nerves and all of that, and so it totally slipped my mind to give them a shout out, but I'm going to do it here on this episode. If you do like true crime, go over there and listen to them. Their podcast name is Crime Pie, and the hosts are Sarah and Lee, and they are awesome. So y'all go check them out. I'm going to leave a link to their podcast in the description so y'all can listen to them and find them. So anyway, let's just get into the episode that we're talking about, The Search, for Outlander's 14th episode. The synopsis reads, Claire and Jenny set out to rescue Jamie from his redcoat captors. When Murdaugh joins up, they turn to unorthodox tactics to send word to Jamie. When word finally arrives, the news isn't what anyone had hoped. So this episode, it starts out right where the last episode ended, and Jenny, she's telling Mrs. Crook to do things on the estate, and Claire, she's getting herself ready to go look for Jamie. And Ian, he's sitting on the couch, and he's wondering what the plan is, what Claire's gonna do, and he wants to go with her, but Claire, she's telling him that, he can't go in his condition, and he's missing his leg and all of that. So he tells, Mrs. Crook to gather up as many tenants as they can find to help Claire, but Claire says that they can't get anybody involved. They can't let Lollybrook start a war with the Redcoats. Ian at least says, well, at least let me make you a map. And so Claire, she's getting ready to, she gets up on her horse, she's getting ready to leave, and Jenny comes out and she tells Claire that she can't go by herself because because Claire doesn't, just because she has a map and all of this doesn't mean that she knows enough of the terrain and how to track soldiers. And Claire, she's protesting because Jenny just had a baby and all of this, but Claire actually agrees that she needs her help. So they both set off, and Jenny is tracking where the soldiers or the other, I can't tell really because it's either the Redcoats tracks or actually where Jamie and the Watch had, they're following their tracks. And I think that's actually what Jenny has found is the tracks of the Watch. But this scene right here is one of my favorite scenes because, the camera is panning around, Laura Donnelly as she's, looking at the ground, and the visuals on this scene is one of my favorite Jenny scenes. But anyway, they go a little further and, they find where Jamie and the Watch were captured. And they see a few men, that have been killed by the Redcoats. And Jenny, she's praying over the dead. And Claire's voiceover mentions that finding these dead bodies reminded her of the war times and stuff. And Jenny, she goes up at the top and she, calls down to Claire that she sees tracks for a wagon, and says that they've headed, I don't remember which direction, but anyway, she knows which way to go and everything, and hopefully they hadn't gotten far. And Claire says she hopes not, because there's a really heavy red-headed Scot weighing down the wagon. And anyway, they set off again, and they go down a ways, and Ginny needs to stop because she feels like she's fixing to burst. And of course, Claire thinks she's talking about needing to use the restroom. But, Ginny really needs to relieve her breasts of milk, and Claire sees her doing this, and she didn't realize that the milk flowed so freely. But anyway, Ginny says that she can't be away from Maggie for too long, that babies can be a lot of work, but you still would never choose to not have them. And Claire kind of says, no, you wouldn't choose that. And, Ginny gives her a look right here like she knows that maybe Claire can't have children. But anyway, Claire starts talking about her plan once they find Jamie, that she's going to try and talk to Lord Thomas, which is Blackjack Randall's superior. So, they're going to try and avoid Blackjack Randall altogether. And Ginny, she doesn't know about this plan, but Claire says that it's better than no plan at all. So they set off again, and they finally catch up to the British soldiers, and they're looking over, and they notice that just McCreary is in the wagon and not Jamie. And, Claire is wondering, where Jamie could be. And she says, do you think they might have killed him? And Ginny was like, well, why would they? And Claire points out that because he's a headstrong Fraser. But they see a guy down there, and he's got a letter that he's getting ready to deliver. And so they decide that they're going to find out where this guy is going. So they go and stop him and capture him. And they start torturing him to find out information, what he knows about Jamie. And he says he doesn't know anything, but Ginny actually gets the thing that, the metal piece that loads the musket ball into the rifle. And she gets it hot, and she pulls his boot off and uses that metal thing to burn his foot to get information. They're torturing him. And Claire is trying to get him to confess what he knows, but he says he's just a courier, that he doesn't know anything. And so Claire goes over to his bag and takes the letter out and reads it, and they find out that Jamie has escaped, and that they should be looking for Jamie. That's what the letter said. So Ginny rips up the letter because, if the British Army doesn't know that Jamie's escaped, they won't go looking for him. So Claire, she starts to go for her medicine to doctor the guy's foot, and Ginny's like, what are you doing? And Claire's like, I'm gonna stop the burning and all of this. And Ginny's like, no, we're gonna have to kill him. And Claire is like, well, I don't know that. We don't have to kill him. And, but Ginny's like, yes, we do, because he knows too much. And as they're discussing this, Murdoch comes up and does the job for them. And, also Ginny's upset because she feels like Claire is judging her for having to do what they need to do. But, anyway, Murdaugh, he says that he followed their tracks until he heard the screaming, and he tells them that they should have covered their tracks a little better. He tells them to make camp while he goes and, hunts for their supper. So they go out and they're collecting firewood and all of this, and Ginny walks up to Claire, and she tells her that, love makes you do things that you never dreamed that you could do. And Claire says, well, she wasn't really judging Ginny. She said that she knows that if Murdaugh hadn't showed up when he did, she'd have had to do it herself. So it goes to the next scene, and they're building a campfire, and Claire has this really clever thing to do with the logs. Every time one burns out, the next one drops down and takes its place, so that the fire will keep burning through the night. And Jenny, she's really impressed with this. For a woman from Oxfordshire knows how to do all this. And Claire, she talks about how when she was younger, her Uncle Lamb would take her camping and stuff.